The purpose of this video is to show you an alternative way to make a temporary bridge, usually at chair side, using this GMA, a more clinical, what we clinicians tended to do. What we've done initially is we've printed some temporary bridges. Ed has printed some bridges, some temporary bridges with PMMA. We've had an issue though, because where they're sprued or where they're getting printed, we have to cut that out, and we end up sometimes in cutting where the print is, we end up boring through the hole, boring a hole in the occlusal, as you can see. So we've thought about maybe doing, and we're going to demonstrate, and you have them here with you already, some of the stents that we made. But I just wanted to show you how these stents are made using a pressure machine that we have somewhere in this institution. The first thing we're going to do is going to use a thin material. This is a thin temporary splint material. As you can see, it's 0.02 inches, very thin, because you want to be able to get this in and out of patients' mouths pretty easily. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a sheet of this. Sometimes these are circular, sometimes these are square. I use the square ones because they're cheaper, and I like the 020. I've cut some notches in. This is our machine over here. It's an old Brufomat. It's a pressure machine. A lot of you have heard about our suck downs, and may have used suck downs in your offices. I want to tell you the difference between them, and you'll see once you see them in your hands. A traditional suck down machine, a vacuum machine, puts about less than 1 bar, 1 atmosphere of pressure on the materials that's being used. Whereas a pressure machine such as this puts about 7 to 8 bars, about 7 atmospheres. So we get a much more intimate fit with our materials. So what we're going to do is we'll take this little sheet. I've already notched it, as you can see. And I'm going to set it in our machine here. And then this is just another ring for our machine. This is the top of our ring. And there's a piston in this ring that'll come down. And then what we're going to do, we're going to set this in, and that'll be ready to go. Our machine is on. It also has a heater on it. And we're going to engage our heater by moving this lever in, over, and you can hear the air in it. And this will start to heat up. We'll give it a few seconds to heat up, about 30 seconds to heat up. The heating ring in there will turn just orange, and you'll see that here in a bit. So as this thing starts to heat up, then I'm going to get my model that has been printed. And I'm going to place it in about the center of our base here, of our machine. Let's stay off the edges as that thing continues to heat. I'm going to use my handy dandy iPhone. I'm going to time this to about 40 seconds. So then what I'm going to do is, now you can see how red that is in there. You can see how we're ready to go. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to rotate this aspect of the machine over the top and start the heating process. At the same time, I'm going to I'm going to time it out for about 40 seconds. This thin material will start to smoke in a little bit. And again, right now here we're pulling about 5 bar of pressure. And you'll see the material start to slump, start to smoke a little bit. And we're at about 30 seconds. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna engage my piston. So I'm gonna press the lever down here, the button here, and I'm gonna pull my lever back towards me. And engage my piston. I'm gonna wait till this little light turns on. You can see the light turn on up here near the regulator. And then I'm gonna let it go. And now I'm gonna let this cool down for 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So
the printing of shell temporary bridges, or the shell actually acts as a template for the bridge itself. The shell is to carry the material to the prepared teeth. And this way, you're going to carry a different material that will not break, that you can use acrylic material to build a very solid, already very close to occlusion bridge. And that way, you're eliminating the chances of your shell bridge breaking and creating an issue tear site.
okay, so about 5 minutes have elapsed. We're just letting the material cool down a little bit, which is not as critical for this material because it's so thin. It will tend to cool down pretty quick. But when we use this machine to do like soft materials, we have to leave the soft materials in for quite a longer period of time, because if not, that thing will just pull them right back up. Anyway, so what we're gonna do to undo this now, we're just going in reverse. We're gonna push our release button, our valve release button here on the side of the machine. And we're gonna hold it until the orange light turns off. And I like to let all the air out. Just a personal preference of mine. And then I'm gonna raise my piston by pushing on my lever here. And that'll raise the piston. Now I'm gonna swing my plate out. There's our pressed material, or split material over our model. So I'm gonna take that off. Nice, intimate fit. Almost like skin, like a glove. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna cut it out. These scissors I bought from Dr. Batres in 1984. And they still have his name on them, as you can see.
I labeled every burr that he bought.
So I usually just tend to cut the whole thing out here, just to make it a little easier for me. And then I'm gonna take a 556 or 557 burr. We can also use, some guys like to use a little wheel. And I just wanna cut this away. Cut a little slit in it so I can break it away from the model. And then I'm just going to take some kind of instrument. I'm just going to pop this off. Now sometimes, and with you all, we're probably going to get some, use some kind of PAM or something, so we all can be able to take this off a little bit. Use it as a lubricant. So there's our kind of roughened out stent. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna take these old scissors, and I usually just trim it up. Now, you can go, if you're doing this in the mouth, you can polish the edges, but I never did. Most people never complained about this. Most of the time, because they were numb, exactly. Most of the time they were anesthetized. And I just want to trim around the edges. and there's our finished stent. And you can see, you'll see how intimate this fits. I gotta actually press it down in there. And it's kind of difficult. To get off. So you'll get a really nice fitting bridge, as Dr. Patres pointed out. It really probably won't take a whole lot of adjustments.
You might even trim it. You might even trim it more than he did here. So all you need is a little bit of contact on the gingival tissue. So you don't need to extend it as far as this is. You can trim until you've got some support against the tissue, and it'll make it easier to remove.
Thank you.